This time in Goss's Garage, we're going to talk a little bit about power steering. See, several years ago, actually a couple of decades ago, cars changed from old-fashioned recirculating ball steering systems to rack and pinion systems. Now, a rack and pinion is simply where they put this one rod through the center of this unit here, and that rod has teeth on it. Then they make teeth like we see here, and then this connects up to the steering wheel, and we turn this, and this gear moves this rod back and forth, and that's what steers the car. Now, here we have one as it has come out of a car. It's all filthy and dirty and so on. This one was leaking, had multiple problems. And we can see here on the end that we don't have here, we have tie rod ends to connect the steering rack to the wheels. All right, now, if you look at this cutaway, you'll see in here that there are all kinds of little seals and there are various bushings and things like that. Now, a lot of manufacturers don't tell you anything at all about ever doing anything with the power steering fluid in your car. And here again, that is presuming your car has power steering fluid. A lot of cars these days, they're using an electric motor to assist in the power as opposed to a hydraulic pump. But we're concerned right now with hydraulic power steering. All right. So what happens? Well, we have these lines on here, and we have a hydraulic pump that is driven by the fan belt on the car, and that pump produces pressure, and as we turn the steering wheel, we activate a valve inside this unit right here. And that valve allows fluid to flow in one direction or the other, and that fluid under pressure is what gives you the power steering assist. Makes the car easier to steer. Well, we have to keep that fluid inside the system. We don't want it to leak out. We have to lubricate all of these parts inside to keep them from wearing out. And that means that we need clean power steering fluid all the time. Now, there are different ways that people like to approach this. A lot of people just leave them alone. This customer over here left it alone and cost him $1,200 for a new rack and a bunch of other stuff that had to go along with it that was damaged from lack of service at about 90,000 miles or so, which is really nothing on a modern car, but it had never been serviced, never ever been touched. And the fluid in it was like mud, and of course some of these seals, well, they went bad inside it. And that in turn, these boots on the inner tie rod ends, those are to keep dirt out. Well, they also fill up with fluid. This particular one did on this end because the seals inside were destroyed from the dirty fluid, and then the fluid leaked out into those boots and in general made a mess underneath the car. Plus, he had to keep adding fluid all the time. So, what do? Well, you have to have clean fluid all the time in a power steering system, just like other systems on the car. So the best thing is to flush the power steering. Now, how do you flush the power steering? Best way to do that is with a machine like this BG flush machine that we have here. This takes out the old fluid and puts in fresh fluid, but before we do that, well, there are chemicals that we put into the system that clean and condition the system to get all the abrasive dirt and everything out of it before we actually put in the new fluid. So flushing is the ideal way, but how often should you do it? Well, every couple years or 30,000 miles would be ideal. Maybe you can go a little longer, maybe not. The other thing that you have to be careful of here is that if you're going to have a shop flush your power steering, make sure that they use the proper type of steering fluid. See, there are different types for different cars and so on. Like some of the German cars use an actual hydraulic fluid, similar to what you'd use in a hydraulic jack or hydraulic lift or something like that, where other cars use regular power steering fluid. So you have to have the right type of fluid in it. So the big thing here is that if you elect to flush the system, what I'd do is I would look for one of the BG flush machines, and that way, if you do it before 36,000 miles the first time, well, you'll get a lifetime warranty on things like these expensive steering racks, and all you have to do is periodically flush it. So proper flushing, typically a steering rack will last the life of the car. No flushing, fluid gets dirty. It isn't unusual for 80 to 100,000 miles for the steering rack to fail, and some of them are downright expensive, exceeding $1,000 just for the part. And if you have a question or a comment, how about dropping me a line right here at radio@goss-garage.com.